right, so this is applied Java and JavaScript projects session, and we're going to talk about the rhinoceros a lot. All right, so here's the theme that I think very suitable for a situation like in this couple years that we see in the IT. Like we have different different languages coming into JVM. We can easily run and write application into multiple languages. We're not limited to just Java anymore, right? We have multiple famous languages like Scala, Groovy, etc., and some other like JRuby, JavaScript. And right now, like we're living in the really, really interesting times. I don't know why it's cursed actually, because you know, this interesting times pays our bills, right? So we're doing like awesome things this year. All right. So, and always I'm trying to figure out like why people why bother about the visit my topics, and so this is a couple points that I think why people will come here. So first of all, you're like excited about the JDK 8, right, and new features that it brought. So also I think you sort of like, if you here and you on the topic of the Java, you also JavaScript enthusiast. So I think yeah, you a little bit above, like you like the JavaScript, Java, and all this stuff. And you really need to run this stuff in your application. You really need this. So I think this is why you guys here today. So who am I to talk to you about this? I work as the solution architect at the Hazelcast company. I'm not going to talk about Hazelcast in this presentation. However, if you want to talk about your future career, stop by, talk to me at the booth number 8. We're hiring. So yeah, it would be interesting. We're doing like very interesting stuff. Also, I'm a co-author of the book, and I'm also co-organizer of a couple user groups. I'm helping with the Princeton Java user group, and I'm organizer of the New York Hazelcast user group, which is right now we just started. And you know, you might ask me, you know, Java guy on the Java conference from the Java company, do you even like know JavaScript? Why are you talking about this? Yes. So as a matter of fact, last year with my colleagues from my previous company, we have written this book called Enterprise Web Development. And as a matter of fact, I have it today with me. So you might want to have this book, and you will get this if you ask like very tricky question, and I would not able to answer this question. So you will get this book. So I'll put it here, and it will wait. It's actually a pretty good book, as a matter of fact. Seriously. All right. So in my presentation, I have like 3 parts. I'll try to go through these my slides as fast as possible to show you some real examples. However, I would like to start with the JavaScript for Java developers. Like, how many of you like Java developers that know JavaScript? Nice. So I will literally just jump through these slides. So the couple years ago it was not matter. Right now it really matters. Like JavaScript developers and Java developers, they can be placed in one person. Like one person can be in good Java and the JavaScript, right? When you like the JavaScript syntax is very similar. Where is it? Yeah, it's very similar syntax, right? But there's awesome stuff hidden under the ocean. Yeah, we usually like people said, okay, this is just easier than Java, right? And we know there's so many like good parts in JavaScript, so there is no reason just learn the JavaScript. So many good parts, right? Now we're here. Not many of us today, anyways. It's still good. So we need to learn more about this stuff. So JavaScript is the object-oriented language, and there's objects, and objects can have properties, and probably even if you never saw like a piece of JavaScript, these days Java developers work with JSON, and in this case you will see this very similar to the JSON. So JSON is a JavaScript object notation. This is JavaScript object. This is simple as that. JavaScript also has the functions, and there's different ways how you can define the functions and how you can invoke these functions, right? So in this case, you can use a keyword function. You can assign the variable to this function, and after that, you can invoke it by name, or you can even, your function be immediately invoked. in this case. It's called immediately invoked functional expression. So function can be assigned to the property as well for the object, and the objects can contain the function literals. So in this case, the property of the object can be assigned to the function. And we can do things like that. JavaScript is a prototype-oriented programming language. So it's not literally like a JavaScript or Java inheritance, but there is a similar construct. And the constructor function, this is the way how the JavaScript guys doing their like inheritance, creation new objects, and things like that. Here's a prototype example for this, and as you can see, the one object can have multiple properties. Another object, we can assign the person object as the prototype of FBI agent object. So here's like trick for you. Who knows what this piece of of this code prints? Any idea? Like any crazy idea that can come up in your... Yeah, it's correct. So, and to actually prove it, I will show you a very nice tool that came with JDK8. I'm running JDK8, and this tool called JJS, Java JavaScript. So it's actually it's a REPL, right? It's you can write the JavaScript stuff and it will interpret it. So in this case, let's try to do things like I have on my slide. Right? And I also print. Undefined, it's correct. So what we have here is this actually like very odd piece of code. However, I will explain why it makes sense if we do some changes in this case. So in this particular situation, if we're putting something on the front, we will get more idea what happens here. So what happens here? The 3 is number. However, when we JavaScript can convert it into number object underneath, and this construction is very known to you because this is nothing more like just accessing the property of the object based on the index. So in this case, we're trying to get access to the property of object number. Oops, sorry. Oops. And by index number 3. However, there's nothing there. It's undefined. It's sort of like default value in the JavaScript. But if we will take the prototype of this object, right, it doesn't really matter what's inside. We just know that this keyword prototypes allows us to get access to the prototype. And using this ability, we can also assign the property of the prototype by index 3. And we put it this string. You know, it's crazy, right? But the JavaScript does these awesome things, and there's a whole presentation about weirdness and awesomeness of JavaScript, I guess. It's called the What talk, and you definitely want to check it after. It's pretty cool and pretty entertaining. And the more important from the previous slide is that we just right now we ran the JavaScript inside the Java, which is, I think it's actually pretty cool. All right, so it was like a very quick and very fast-paced introduction into the JavaScript. Any questions, guys, so far? Okay, good. So we're on the same page. We know a little bit of JavaScript. So now let's talk about what is the new features of the JDK8. What is the nest horn, right? So the JavaScript was everywhere for a long time, you know, running on the browsers. With V8, some smart people decide, okay, so let's do actually, we take this engine from the browser and try to run it as the standalone application. And this standalone application will, you know, execute the JavaScript and will do something with this JavaScript. So not only for like rendering pages, rendering snowflakes on the page, but like do some useful stuff like reading files from the system, do number crunching, something like that. So at this point, like Node.js emerged. Also, like if you ever use or try to use any scripting ability of the Java platform for quite a while, you probably know about Rhino. Rhino was the implementation of the JavaScript engine written on Java, and it was used in some Mozilla's project quite a while. After JDK 6, Rhino became implementation of the JavaScripting API, and even right now, you still have this ability to run the JavaScript with Java 6 and Java 7. But here comes the Nesthorn, and let me actually give you a couple ideas what the Nesthorn brought to us. So first of all, the Nesthorn is the modern and very high-performance engine for JavaScript, written in Java and running on JVM. So it's 100% implementation on pure Java. There is no like hacks to the native libraries and stuff like that. Right now, the version that we have in JDK 6 is 100% compliant with the ECMAScript standard. ECMAScript is the organization, or ECMA, this is an organization that standardizes the syntax of the JavaScript and all these language features. So right now, the Nesthorn is 100% compliant with ECMA, which is like current standard. And the guys from the Oracle team, they're right now working on the implementing the ECMA 6 standard. So this is actually where Nesthorn starts, showing like best pieces. So Nesthorn not only like interpret your JavaScript. JavaScript is like interpreted language, right? So each and every time we read this, read the a script, and each and every time we execute on this. This was the case with Rhino, but it's not the case with the Nesthorn. So Nesthorn, like the first time, it loads this script, and after that it tries to compile it into like Java bytecode that stores in the memory. So the next time, your code will be executed much faster because it's compiled in bytecode. And also the things that the JVM guys did with the Invoke Dynamic to improve the performance, to improve the overall, basically performance of the Invoke Dynamic call sites. It's 100% used in the Nesthorn internals, because the JavaScript is the dynamic language, and lots of things should be it needs to figure out lots of things in runtime, like because dynamic properties figure out if it's property, if it's function, etc. like that. So, and how to use all these goodies, right? So basically only one API that you need to care about is the GSR 223, basically. So this is standard API that is available since Java 6. And everything that goes into JavaX scripting package, this is like your main friend. With the Nesthorn, you can read the Java. You can read Java objects inside the JavaScript scripts. You can write like JavaScript object inside your script. All these things that can be done. You can create Java classes, like instances of Java classes from the script. You can implement or extend Java classes and implement interfaces. And here's how the piece of code looks like. So the script engine manager, this is your sort of like window to world of the script engines on JVM. The simplest way to get the Nesthorn is to get this engine by name. If you get this null, meaning that the script engine manager unable to find Nesthorn. Also, Nesthorn can be replaced with JavaScript, but Nesthorn is more implicit, so I want to be here more implicit. Sometimes, like if you want to run it on some other versions. Say if you're running with Java 6 or Java 7, you will get here, you will not get the Ness horn. But if you run like JavaScript here as the name of the engine, you will get something else. So in case of Rhino, it would be Rhino. Or, for example, if you're running this and you have something else in your class path. For example, you're running this same code from the Groovy script. Groovy itself also implements this JSR 223, and you will get when you try to sort of like evaluate what kind of engines do you have there, you will get Groovy. Or if you're running on the Java 6 on Mac, you also will get the Apple script as engine. So basically, Apple implemented the piece of the Apple script engine compliant with the JSR 223. So it's actually saying that this is like a very standard way to bring like very different technologies on the same place. All right, so a little bit about the Ness horn itself. Ness horn itself compliant with this specification. However, it's also extended with its own classes. And if you want to do like the nice stuff and interesting stuff, I would say, you probably need to use the Ness horn directly instead of using like JSR 223. So you still can use the JavaScript in API, but just for if you need to support backward compatibility, you need to switch with different versions of JDK, etc. So with the Ness horn API, it's available only in Java 8, and all these examples that I shown you. This is part of upcoming 8.4, or it's already released. I'm not sure. I'm using like the early releases very often, so I'm not sure if it's released already. So this release will actually bring lots of interesting things in terms of performance and in terms of optimizations and stuff like that. For example, your code, like I said, when you're running the script with the Ness horn, it actually compiles it to the bytecode-ish thing. It's not like a Java class. When you like look into the Java class file, it's like bytecode, a little bit different information. But with these options, for example, we can get the persistent cache for your script. So next time, Ness horn would actually like to save the result of the compilation, and the next time it will improve the startup of the script, so it will not recompile this file once again. It will just use this from the cache. Sometimes people also asking, okay, so we want to use the Java, but however, we want to use JavaScript in Java, however, we want to restrict it somehow. We don't want to get the users access to, for example, system.exit, things like that. You can do this, and the Ness horn allows this to do with the option no Java. So in this point, no access to Java API would be allowed at all in this case. There's a very good blog post on the Ness horn. If you're like interested in this topic, I would suggest you definitely to follow this the blog on the Ness horn team. They're posting very interesting insights sometimes. And the recent one is actually pretty good in terms of if you want to learn about the performance optimization and all this hackish stuff. Also, a very interesting source to get the information from about all this. Hidden switches in the Ness horn engine if you're running JJS with -6 help. So there is a like standard thing. If you do say JJS -help, it will give you just some help. But when you do X help, it shows much more. And things like persistent code cache, or where is this optimistic? There's also optimistic types. It also allows to save it allows the Ness horn it's sort of predict the types of the object for better performance. Also, this information can be persisted as a part of the this class information. not class information, the information that's stored in persistent cache. So here's a couple things that Nashorn gives gives on top of the things that Rhino give to you. So things like the parameters overloading and this kind of syntax that Nashorn has. So in this case, Nashorn provides this global object called Java, and compared to things that with Rhino it was packages or something. So Java.type will allow you to load a class definition inside your Nashorn context. So in this case, we're storing the object Java length system inside the object system, and now we can do all these crazy things that I showed you on my previous slide. The same, like similar, right? So this is like a standard way to do system out print line, or you can do things like that because it's a method, and in JavaScript you can invoke method using the access to property by name. And here you just you also overriding. We're doing like explicit double. We can get the access to the Java beans with that kind of things. Like we can access to a date type, and we can do very interesting stuff. If you're writing, like personally, I find myself very often, writing my shell scripts in JavaScript. Yeah, how crazy does that sound, right? Because JavaScript is still a good programming language. Like if we compare with Bash, for example, Bash is not programming language. And I like to write my scripts in programming language. So it also, the Nashorn provides that kind of things that allow me to sort of maybe debug. So this kind of variables give me access to the current file, current line, and the current directory. So it varies. And also, very important thing that nothing exists in in some isolation, right? There's tons of libraries available, and you can easily use these libraries in your Java applications. And in this case, for example, I have this code snippet that used _JS library. There's a library that provides different very nice features in JavaScript to work with collections. And the load function that globally available in Nashorn allows to load the external scripts and also like compile them, interpret them, and compile. And as you can see here, I have just commented out another line. I can actually load it from the internet, like not even from my file system, just right from the internet. I will show you a little very quick example. Oh no, I will show it a little later because yeah. I will give you some use cases that I came up with to give you some ideas. So first of all, shell scripting, and I want to show you something like very interesting. So as I mentioned, I use the JavaScript for writing my shell scripts. Not only my shell scripts, but sometimes I need to do, I don't know, things like, to go some database, query something, to after that calculate something and print it out, get some idea, right? I can write the Java application for that. It's easy, but I can also write the JavaScript application for that. And let me actually show you. So here is the, actually let me open it, a real editor, yeah. Are you able to see it well? So this is JavaScript, right? And this JavaScript gives us, or give me, lots of flexibility. For example, instead of invoking JJS, I can add the hashbang on my JavaScript file and make it executable. And after that, the system will figure out where my JJS is. So basically here I am specifying my interpreter. Also, because I want to use in this JavaScript file, I want to use the HSQL driver because I want to hit the HSQL database. I want to also import this HSQL jar inside my JavaScript. So now from here, I'm starting using the JavaScript, Java API with JavaScript. Here I'm loading the actual driver, creating the instance of this driver. Now the establishing connection, and if I have some errors, I want to print these errors into the console. Another very interesting and useful thing that Nashorn guys put for you is string interpolation. So by default, like in JavaScript, there's no like string interpolation, and you cannot put something into the string. So the string will be interpreted, and this something would be actually replaced with real values. So in this case, the string interpolation, it will evaluate this expression and put the result on the string. It's actually very useful if you ever use it in Groovy, for example. You don't need to use concatenation, all this ugly stuff. And why I'm showing it to you is because I can easily, modify this query, and without recompilation, without nothing, I can very quickly do, call this database, right? And I get the results. So in this case, this is just a select star from the company table. Okay, so now I want to do something different. So again, without restart or recompilation, I can do select star from company associate, right? And also here, let's do something more. Things like, yeah. So the more examples and more information about scripting capabilities, you can find on this link on my presentation after. So also with the JavaScript, like it's dynamic language, so you can do like extension of your application without restart. So one of the examples, what I did is I provided the way for some clients to do. They have some shared folder which is restricted for accessing the right people, and in this folder there was like a script, and from the invoking some servlet, this script would be executed. So with this that kind of approach, they used for changing the sort of logic of calculating some discounts, for example. And so this is a good example where scripting is actually a pretty good thing for your application, for extending your application. And also, JavaScript can be used. Yes, please.
What happens to the just-in-time cache when you start making dynamic changes to JavaScript classes?
It would be recompiled. It would be different thing. So when you do eval, like this string what you provide, it would be different string because you provided new changes. So the previous changes would be discarded. New changes would be used. And some of the frameworks, for example, Vertex, we were going to talk about it, Vertex a little bit on my couple slides forward. It actually gives, it's a Java framework, but it also allows you to write the JavaScript verticals, and they providing like a JavaScript API on top of the existing Java API. So this is actually also, if you're looking for some, how it's called, like polyglot framework for your application, or you're building your polyglot framework for your application, this is actually the case. Also, because we did it very long time ago, right? So we did the web content generation on the server side since, I don't know, since the first version of the servlets, right? or even before. So now we're doing, you know, we want to be like cool kids. We're doing like a JavaScript on the browser only, and the server side is only for data. However, in some cases, for example, you want to still preserve this compatibility with the old browsers or old systems. So you can do actually execute that JavaScript that runs on your client, execute it on the server side, precompile it sort of, right? And just send it back to the client that doesn't support running the very fast JavaScript. So it can be done for old version of Internet Explorer, God forbid if you're using it. It's lots of the Node.js guys and like JavaScript community come up with tons of different templating frameworks, and even in Java we still have tons of templating framework. But I'm talking about if we want to have same code on the front end and on the back end, we can still preserve sort of backward compatibility with our old browsers. All right. So, any questions about the Nest-Core so far? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. This is also same thing that you do. This is whole point why we want to run this JavaScript on Java, right? So Java is, you know, a platform that known for its maturity, for different tools that are available. You can even, you know, debug the JavaScript from the Java IDE, for example. I have this. It's an IntelliJ IDEA, for example, allows me to do that if I'm doing things like so where is it? I always have this small script runner application. So and I want to provide some script, and right now it will throw me. Okay, so nice. So what I want to debug. So let's debug this. JS. Okay. Okay. When I run it and open this mafia.js, and I want to put the breakpoint somewhere. Like I want to put the breakpoint somewhere. And when I do debug script runner, so what we have here? It doesn't really. Uh-oh. Looks like they break something. Usually it works. So the IntelliJ IDEA and NetBeans, they provide the ability when you run the. Actually, you know what? Let me try to run it without anything. Let's see if I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. Should work. So now when I run it with debug, I don't know. The idea was, you know, to show you debug, but looks like that's it's not a good idea to use like early access program version of IntelliJ always, especially for live demos. So idea is here to IntelliJ IDEA and the NetBeans, they allow you to look inside the in this script same way as you, for example, use IntelliJ for debugging your Java. is actually it's a pretty full thing. And in terms of like monitoring, all tools that are available to you right now can be used with JavaScript that's running in the context of the Java. Any other questions about Nashorn? You look sad. let's do some fun things, right? So now we all know about the Node.js and all these new trends in the web development. And look at this, it's like almost 100 like 100,000 packages in NPM. NPM is the Node Package Manager. Isn't it cool? Like we have like thousands of Java libraries, plus we can add like some JavaScript libraries. We don't need to even like write our code anymore, right? Just use the code from the other people. Yeah, and this was like good promise, and the Avatar.js was actually very good thing in terms of like in future. And let me show you a little quick demo. So, when I did this demo first time in the Java one last year, I just said, okay, so let me take the first application that I found in Google and written in Node.js, and at least it would be relatively complex. So it would use some frameworks like network framework, like Express, some other things, and I just go and Google it. It's a good idea, right? So I just find this project called Ninja Store. And this is sort of like a place where a real ninja can buy like shurikens and katanas and stuff like that. However, to run it, I need a little bit of Java. So let me actually show you the actual application. Yeah, so this is the actual application inside my JavaScript folder. The Nashorn and Avatar, they sort of support the same node layout. Like you see this node module, this is standard place where all node dependencies are going to. Like if I open here, there's Express, Stylus, and other things. And let me run this application. I will run it on the node right now to demonstrate that kind of Devnexus. Can you guys see it? And I can do like shurikens, something like that, things like that. Like quite simple in terms of like things what it does, but still lots of things can be done with this application. So in this case, let me stop it. So, and also I want to start, let's return to Java part. So this is the couple things that I personally don't like, and which is we will talk about this later. So the Avatar itself, it was like very good project, but it was very poor management of this project, I would say, from the Oracle perspective, because when they announced this and when they released this, it was sort of like a framework on top of Java EE, which doesn't make any sense. Why I need to do this? We have already Java EE. It's pretty cool. We can still use some Nashorn scripts to run it on top of Java EE. Would be fine. We want to run Node, right? And after that, they went to their I don't know, maybe their stream. So they start coding something without talking to community and stuff. So they decided to change it to Avatar to 2.0, and okay, we will talk about this a little bit later. The main idea is here, the Avatar.js, the core of the Avatar and Project Avatar is the library called avatar.js, which is this is native library, right? So it's not Java anymore. It should be compiled, or binary should be provided. And when this library loaded, we can still use the Node application, app.js, to start. And actually, it works well, and it works pretty well. And when I do run it, I will run it this guy. And if I will go here, and when I will click refresh, you will see like slow startup, which is designed because Nashorn still is quite behind of V8 in terms of performance. It's not the hundreds of times slower. Right now it's tens of times, which is actually pretty awesome, because like I remember like a couple of years ago it was like 100 times behind of V8. So same like Devnexus, same functionality. Application works absolutely the same, only with one exception. If I open the app.js, we can see here, first of all, we will see where, the output here, like Oracle Nashorn. So I'm doing this specifically to test if I'm running this Node.js and I still can have access to Java APIs. So in this case, I'm checking if this current process is actual V8. So if we're running, this is like API from Node, by the way. If it's a V8, if it's not, if it's Nashorn, I want to load some Java stuff. So if I go here to nashorn.js, we already saw the script. So we invoking JavaScript scripting API within Node.js application, like it's a inception, right? So in this case, what the script does, it's just getting the Nashorn engine and it prints the engine name into console. I think, you know, this is kind of odd thing. It may be not quite easy to understand. But once again, we're running the Node.js application inside JVM. Inside this application, from the JavaScript, we're invoking Node.js, which actually runs it, you know, on the very low level. It's actually it's pretty cool. I don't know why you're so sad about this. All right, it's okay. Yeah, I know why you're sad, because I have a next slide. So yeah, it's sort of legal. No, it's legal. It's still legal. We can do this, but there's a couple things that I want to mention. And we almost have. Oh, still have plenty of time. Okay. As I said, you don't need to probably today to do that kind of low-level stuff that I showed you, because this is just the sandbox. Just you're playing toys. You want to have some like mature framework that give you ability to writing the polyglot application. If you have the team of the Java guys or JavaScript guys or JSON guys or Scala guys, Groovy, Ruby, Clojure, Scala, PHP, Cylon. Name yours. So the Vertex supports all this stuff. Vertex can use all these Nashorn goodies, and you don't need to worry about this. It will just swap it, and will use the Nashorn, and you will not feel the difference. And of course, you will see the better performance. The cool thing about the Vertex is Vertex has the thing called event bus. And this event bus based on the Hazelcast. It's actually a pretty cool thing when the open source project used another awesome open source project to do another awesome thing. So basically, event bus is a sort of API that allows you to send message to any Vertex vertical. Basically, think about this as, if you never use it, think about this as the instance of your application. Or you can even send the message right to the client, which is JavaScript client sitting in your browser. So you don't need to think about this, how it's implemented. You just need to use this library. They're handling the reconnection, they're handling high availability. Actually, this is a very good framework and pretty mature. And a distributed data store would be available on the version 3, which is scheduled for this year. It's almost ready. And it's used the Eclipse and the Apache V2 license. So this guy, the Avatar 2.0. You know, I was thinking to include or not to include. I decided to include, like people need to know about this. So in the Java 1 2014 on October, Oracle announced that they totally changed direction where they're going with this Avatar thing. So now they're saying, okay, it would be JavaScript API with 100% compatibility, not 98% compatibility with Node modules. Same will use the Nashorn, will give you the Node.js API, will give you the API for implementing persistence based on the model store paradigm. Some of the JavaScript frameworks are using it. Same event bus based on the Oracle coherence, distributed data based. I guess they said that would be Oracle coherence, but they want to use the JCache API. Yeah, this is very sad. Not open yet, and not will be opened because it's dead, literally. So the Oracle just, you know, the months ago they paused this the blog, very sad blog for me because I was so excited about when they announced it, and I waited to get you know, to do more interesting stuff with this. But they said, okay, so we don't have like time for this. We, you know, basically we don't know what to do with this. So we just decided to freeze it, and we're not giving you any code. So yeah, forget about this. So if you heard like the Avatar thing, and your body will talk to you about, you know, this Avatar thing, I heard about this Oracle thing. Forget about this. Never use it. This Oracle did not very good thing with handling open source. However, there's another company which does pretty good thing with open source. It's the Red Hat, and there's a JBoss project, like JBoss team guys. So what they're doing is they have this project called Nodine. Nodine is actually a Java implementation of the Node.js API, like the thing that we want to use. And Nodine is actually does this thing right. It's still working. Nodine also can be worked with the Nashorn, or it can use its own implementation of JavaScript engine. It's Dyn.js. So Dyn.js, very smart people in the Red Hat. They also like doing their own stuff. And again, you might want not to use this Nodine directly. It will be integrated with Vertex version 3. So the Vertex version 3 will give you ability to use Node.js in your Java application. Yeah, but still, like, I don't want to, you know, close this presentation on a very sad note, like about like a death of pretty not that bad framework, right? So I want to show you even more. I don't want to say this word like pervert thing, but you know, this very crazy thing that I can do. If you still need to use Node.js on your project, and you need to use Java project, still there is a way how you can do this. As a matter of fact, I was so surprised that when I discovered it. So the idea is here is to actually not to run Node on the Java, but run Java inside the Node. So in this case, I want to show you this small example. This is also like JavaScript. But I was so surprised when I found this the Java package. It's actually a Node.js module, which is called Java. And what it does, it actually starts like JVM and creates bridge between your Node.js application and some, you know, running in background JVM. Crazy, right? So what I did this, so I took the Hazelcast class client, and I just put this Hazelcast API, and I want to connect to Hazelcast cluster because we unfortunately don't have right now JavaScript driver for the Hazelcast cluster. However, I still can use this code can be used in any Node.js application. And Node.js application can connect to Hazelcast cluster. So let me start the Hazelcast cluster real quick. Let me first of all stop it. So if you don't know what Hazelcast is, don't be shy. Stop by tomorrow on the booth number 8. I will gladly tell you about this. So in this case, you might think it about is the distributed cache, right? It's in memory right now, and with the console, I can put some value inside the default cache, and K1, I call it Devnexus. So now I store this, and now from the JavaScript, from the node, I wanna execute this, and I wanna get this the data what I stored inside inside the Hazelcast. So now, from one perspective, I started the node. This is node, like a real node. So I started the node. The node executed this script, and it creates the connection to the Hazelcast cluster. It shows okay, so I connected to this Hazelcast cluster, and I read this value from here. So in this session, I showed you how you can run JavaScript on Java platform, and as a bonus, you can run the Java inside your JavaScript platform. And I guess this is it. I showed you my demo. I'm willing to answer your question, and I still have this book to give to someone. We have plenty of time for questions and stuff like that. Yes.
When did this kind of bridging back and forth, when did it break down?
Which one?
You're trying to do this kind of JavaScript, Java.
When it break?
When do you have any impact? If I'm trying to run, so like National achieved a way of getting the bytecode from JavaScript, and on the node side, I presume that doing something similar. So is there a chance that this could potentially break down?
Yeah. There's always chance if something will break. So, so what this package for Node does is, like I said, it's just starting JVM. It has some sort of like a bridge that feeds data back and forward. It's actually this package is actively developing, and I was surprised like that like a couple days ago when updating my code and slides, I saw like new version, like the guy who doing this, he's actually like putting effort in this. So it's still developing. Neshorn will be developed, but Neshorn is like low level, like very low level for you as a developer to use in terms of running simple scripts, running the shell scripts. It's also pretty awesome. But you need to we need to wait the emerging of the frameworks, like the platforms that allow us to focus on the real things, not the implementing the platforms. I think this is the main thing. Yeah.
Is Vertex, is it on the browser side, is it using some existing framework like jQuery or Dojo or something like that, or is it something you've invented? So
the Vertex itself, I think, right, it uses SOCJS for network communication. Vertex doesn't provide you with any UI library. It's just for communication. You can plug it to any library, any JavaScript application like React or how it's called, like Angular. Whatever you like. It gives you just like a client. a teeny tiny object that can subscribe to events from the server. Any other questions?
If you call in the element of the JavaScript, you have access to your JavaScript with access to variables that are in the JavaScript.
In what case?
Well, you call in the JavaScript function as the global variables. If you want to define the JavaScript, can the Java access those?
If your Java running JavaScript, it can be accessed. So you can, I can actually show you. So in should be somewhere in my test suite. So the engine itself not only can do eval, like when it actually execute the code and interpret it, but also it can do things like, where is it? Yeah, so it can do things like that. So when we did something and we know that inside the global scope of this JavaScript we have method, we can invoke it using that kind of API. So what's happened in this particular example, I will show you. So in this example, I'm just loading library called Dast. It's a templating engine, and first thing I'm do evaluation this file. So meaning that it will read this file and will compile it to the bytecode. So next thing, that this is how I get the object from the global space of the JavaScript, because if you will try to debug it, or if you run it on the browser, you will get the global level Dast object. Now, as you can see, this is like a Java object, just object, right? And you can invoke method by string name, by name, and we can pass parameters into this method. So if we take a look on the API of this method, so dast.compile has two parameters: template body and template name. So this is how we can do this. To answer your question, this is answer to your question. Like we can get this object from the JavaScript from the global scope. Question? Yes. Security.
Or like JJS, you said you could load external libraries arbitrarily. Is there flags to prevent that in that one?
To prevent to load?
Yeah.
I showed you some flags that you can prevent executing Java library, but probably not. I'm not aware about like that kind of thing. So probably you cannot. Only thing that if you want to run it on some environment, you can firewall it, like to disable like network activity. If we're talking about security and in terms of like security manager in Java, so the Nesthorn is 100% compliant with security manager. If security manager doesn't allow to do these things, like execution of particular things, Nesthorn will just throw the same exception as the Java. So you can restrict it. There was lots of, maybe not lots of, I saw recently some questions on the Stack Overflow about the Nesthorn, and people asking about how to like restrict from the resources level, like how to. I think it's the same question applies to Java, because it's still running in the Java container, and everything that applies to Java in terms of configuration, in terms of the restrictions, in terms of getting some resources, it's also Java. So if you can do it with Java, and you can still prevent to do this in the JavaScript. Also, like recently, there's some recent builds of GDK 9. They already included the very interesting thing. So they actually they exposed the internals of the Neshorn to get the JavaScript abstract syntax tree. So you can use it, for example, you can use the Neshorn for your application. For example, you're writing some code editor, right? And you can load the JavaScript, and you can use the abstract syntax tree to do interesting things like the highlighting of the code and things like that. So it's not only like framework for execution some JavaScript things, but also it also can get some information about internals of the JavaScript. So you don't need to write your own engine. But again, this is very interesting part to know, very interesting part when you're building your own framework. But in terms of the real application, if you want to use, you will be looking at something different, like framework.
So what's the biggest advantage of using this instead of just have everything written in the same language? Just screen reusability? Yeah, so main... So the first thing is speed. I showed you that I can easily change and modify code without recompilation. Another thing is flexibility. So I can provide, I don't need to even like provide the whole application written in JavaScript. I can use some pieces that might be changed often. I want to use the JavaScript as my DSL for writing some business rules, or for writing some scenarios if I'm writing some, I don't know, like workflow application. Syntax is pretty much, people can understand this. So instead of like inviting some visual basic language, you can use JavaScript. Why you need to use other languages in your application? So here's the thing. Sometimes why we're running, like in our teams right now, we still have Java developers and JavaScript developers. They developing like a backend, another one developing like a front end. However, they already know language, right? So it's not that hard to make them learn some backend stuff. So you can also do backend development. And this also, like from financial perspective, it's you know, to teach people how to fish. It's much harder, but it will give some benefits in future. So we're already in a polyglot world. So there's no single modern application that uses just only one language. I'm not talking even about the XML. It's not the language, but I'm saying like, even if you're using like pure Java technologies like JSF still generates the HTML output plus JavaScript output. So it's just I think it's a good idea to have this that kind of like, and again, libraries. Some libraries written in Java, some libraries that not available in Java. I will give you another example. So there is a very good tool or like markup. I spent some time when we work on this book to find a very good tool and markup to write the book, because we don't want to work with Microsoft Word. There was like 4 people, and you know, sending in Microsoft Word with the different changes of the book, it would be a nightmare. So we want to stay on the text-based thing, but we want to use the some way to generate HTML, PDF, and EPUB versions. So we end up with the some people use the Markdown, but Markdown not suitable for writing big books. It's suitable for writing notes and stuff like that, but for writing books, Markdown is not suitable. And we end up with the framework called the ASCII doc. After a certain time, the ASCII doc itself was pretty slow in our amount of text. So generation took like seconds to generate the book. So we found the implementation of the same standard on the Ruby. So, but the guys who developed this Ruby implementation, they didn't stop on the Ruby because they had like a Java background. So first of all, they started in the JRuby, same thing that they have written on Ruby, running with the Ruby virtual machine. They run it on the Java using JRuby. So now the Java guys can be leverage all this knowledge that Ruby guys have from this framework. And after that, they did like very crazy thing. So they actually took the ASCII doctor code and cross-compiled it into JavaScript. And in Ruby, there is a project called Opal, which actually it's a Ruby runtime written on JavaScript. So now I'm continuing my idea. So we have the Ruby written framework that runs inside the virtual machine that written in JavaScript. So in this case, the JavaScript and Node guys can use ASCII doctor without changing the code or without implementing the ASCII doc, the parser. ASCII doc is quite complex, so this is why there's lots of things that can be done with ASCII doc. And now the Java guys have this framework. JavaScript guys have this framework, and it runs well on the Node. It runs well on the browser. They use this JavaScript thing in the Neshorn, and right now Neshorn is still a little bit far behind of the version of JRuby, but still, like imagine, like right now, same code base that initially was written on Ruby can be run on Java. It can be run on the JavaScript. So I think it's all about I guess it's all about libraries right now. If you cannot find library in your language, try to find this library in another language and just plug this language into your application. I'm not sure if I answered your question or this is the answer that you're expecting to hear, but this is what I think, why I want to use this.
Yes. Actually, I got two questions. Yeah. One is the JavaScript engine. Once you load it, is that a singleton for VM or for JVM?
You can, yeah, the engine itself is the singleton, but you can depass it. It's thread safe.
Okay. So the second question is like, when does it decide to unload a script? Like in this example, right? You have the engine.eval, the new file reader, and then you got another one that says eval and align. Mm-hmm. So when does the engine decide to unload something?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. It stays in memory.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so potentially you can have files that collide with each other in terms of namespace.
Potentially, yes.
Oh, so that could be quite a concern, right? When your application grows big, you can have unintended effects. Yeah,
the same problem you will have if you run this different version of the file in the browser, and if you don't have a namespaces or properly defined namespaces, you will definitely have the global object to clash, right? It's nothing to do with the Neshorn, or it's just the nature of the JavaScript and how it works in terms of global objects.
Can you write a script to apply your IntelliJ updates?
Say again? I need to, yeah, probably. They released something new. All right, so do you guys have any questions? More? All right, so I don't really know who wants this book. Let's start with this. Like, I would just, give it to the first one who would raise the hand. Okay, here you go. It's yours. Yeah, enjoy. It's actually a really good book. All right, thank you guys for your time. Enjoy the cocktail party. And one more thing, like these samples codes, it's on my GitHub. And I guess it would be published on the Devnexus. Thank you very much.